Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
This is your former
Good morning and
coach,
welcome
Steve
to
Spurrier.
a Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Thursday. That means Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup, second portion of the program. And the first part of the program will be Brent Beaird talking college football. If you missed it last night, the Tampa Bay Rays tied up the World Series with a 6-4 win over the LA Dodgers. They have an off day. We'll be back in action on Friday. But let's get over to the Titan MR hotline. And we're joined by our good friend, Brent Beaird. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. Good to be with you, Shane, as always. Man, 1 week leads to another. Every game is significant in this 10-game SEC slate that we've got. And I know we've only got a limited amount of games, but these games are going to be very important this week, too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Before we jump into the SEC, Brent, you sent me something, and I also saw it on Twitter. What schools are doing the tracking chips worn by the players to show that they're not coming within a certain amount of distance for a period of time?
I know it's because of money that is rather limited at this point. But the interesting thing about this, and I give Ross Dellinger credit for it, that what they have seen so far is that the chips that have been worn are showing that players do not come within 6 feet of another single player. And here's the important part, for a cumulative 15 minutes during a game. So that is why that we're not seeing a lot of on-field transmissions. I would be curious to know what who all the schools are too, but I think that's the most important part about it. And I found that to be fascinating, Shane. You probably did too, is that in the course of the game, that all the players on the field, it's not like they're right next to each other all the time. So that's at least one of the information showing us so far.
Yeah. In the SEC, I looked at the stats. The team leading the SEC in total defense, I'm a little surprised, but not surprised because they've been playing pretty well so far this year.
Yeah, and that's Mississippi State. Some folks might be surprised about that, but they are. Unfortunately, on defense, their starting safety, Fred Peters, is out now for the rest of the year. So that is a problem for them where they're struggling. Now, you would think this would be just reverse, but they really are having trouble offensively with KJ Costello has been really struggling. So far, he had a great, obviously, set an SEC record versus LSU. Since then, he's had 1 touchdown and 8 interceptions. Will Rogers, not the philosopher, but the quarterback, protects the ball better. And Kylan Hill has been out. We heard so much about Kylan in the beginning of the year, what he did for the state flag, and how productive he was last year and what we thought he'd be this year. It really just hasn't worked out. Mike Leach has said very little about Hill, and he just, as far as is he going to play, is he not? So there's a lot of mystery about that right now, but Leach is going to take a year for some roster management, but that is surprising, isn't it, Shane, that they've done much better, at least in the stance defensively. Now, Georgia's got the best defense in the league, but State, at least from the statistics, has done fine.
Yeah, and then, what's interesting, I was looking at the stats here. Everybody, and Barry Odom, don't get me wrong, has done a phenomenal job with the defense at Arkansas and Sam Pittman. and everybody's talking about what a great defense Arkansas is playing. They're ranked eighth in the country, eighth in the league in defense. So, they're playing that 3-man front, dropping 8 into coverage, bend but don't break, giving up a bunch of yards, and just getting fortunate turnovers.
Well, absolutely. And see, what has changed is red zone defense. And in red zone defense, Kentucky is 3, Arkansas is 5. So they're the second best red zone defense in the SEC. By the way, the Gators are 3rd, and then South Carolina is 4th. So I think what's changed along this time, Shane, is not, and we've gravitated from yards to more red zone defense and also takeaways. So that's how the game has changed, right?
Yeah, it really has. A lot of stuff had to be shuffled around due to the COVID issues. A lot of games now scheduled on Halloween, where the Gators are supposed to play Missouri. We'll talk about a couple of the other changes that have been made.
Yeah, Georgia, Kentucky, then there's going to be at noon, LSU, Auburn, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State at Alabama, Arkansas, and Texas A&M, which will certainly have significance this year too. You mentioned Missouri and Florida. What this means is for the first time, Shane, I don't remember, maybe you do, that the last time that Florida and Georgia did not have a week off before they played, but that's what this is going to amount to now. So that's how things have been changing. And oh, by the way, originally, before COVID, Florida and Georgia were going to play on Halloween. So those, again, are the changes. Unfortunately, the SEC has that one bye week for the teams, and then they've got that December the 12th week, which, hey, Shay, when they first decided to do so, they thought December the 12th may be for 1 or 2 games. The reality is now we may have a full slate of games on December the 12th.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Brent, a lot of people, because it's Alabama, Nick Saban, he took the test each day, and then they each came back negative, so he was allowed to coach. Let everybody know the rule that if you do test positive, if you have 3 straight, I think it's 3 negatives after that,
yes,
you're good to go, right?
Yeah, and that's what happened to Saban. Was he had, it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday that he had 3 in a row, and frankly, after he had 2 in a row, they thought at that time that on Saturday that it would just they would also get the 3rd one at that point. That's what happened. So I think the amusing thing about that was he was on game day Saturday morning dressed a suit. Everybody figured out, well, he's dressed in a suit. He's probably not going to be around the house wearing a suit all day long. So they figured out at that point that he was probably going to be at the game. Yeah,
no doubt. Let's talk about that game. We haven't spoken with you since. Alabama was very convincing in the second half. Offensively, this, in my opinion, Brent, is the best offense Nick Saban's ever had.
Well, it's certainly debatable. There's no doubt. And a lot of people think this offense may be better than the one with Tua, which is hard to imagine. But so far, they have been that efficient. I mean, Mac Jones has really grown to being a game manager to where he is a playmaker at this point. The offensive line is one of the best they've had right now in years. Mac had pretty much a clean pocket against the Georgia defense, which is hard to do. They had a really good plan. That they had the ball in the fourth quarter, Shane, 11 minutes and 21 seconds. So they dominated the fourth quarter, which was one of the reasons that they won. Now, they're still struggling in punting and kickoff coverage. Georgia almost broke a couple of kickoffs. But, I mean, it was a heavyweight fight in the first half. The 52-yard field goal that Reichert hit with 1 second left in the half was a big plus for Alabama. That gave them a lot of momentum. So they were actually able to come out in the second half. Stetson Bennett's limitations shown in that game. He's listed to 5'11". He's probably 5'9", frankly. Alabama either tipped or batted 7 of his passes. It's going to be interesting to see what they do at quarterback when they play Kentucky next week. They're off this week. If J.T. Daniels will be the guy, and he's had some soreness in his knee, which limits his mobility. But they ran the ball well, and they just really stopped, which is inexplicable for them. They were averaging about 5 yards per carry, and instead Bennett threw the ball 40 times. They ran 30 times, and they needed to reverse that at least because they've got a really good running attack. So if you got a new quarterback and you can run the ball, that's probably what you'll see Georgia do more of. That's coming up. But yes, it was two behemoths playing, and of course Florida will have a lot to say about this, but they may play again in Atlanta at the end of the year.
Yeah. So Alabama travels to Knoxville. Tennessee loses at home to Kentucky. What's the quarterback situation? Are they going to stick with Garantano?
If you have a coin in your pocket, we'll flip it and see. They may end up playing 3 different quarterbacks. Garantano, it would be the most experienced guy. Then they've got Shrout, and then they've got Harrison Bailey, who's a freshman that everybody loves. So right now, it's really up in the air. Now, they've got some good skill position players. Eric Gray's a good running back. Josh Palmer's a good wide receiver. By the way, Jeremy Pruitt now 15-13 at his time at Tennessee. Inexplicably, he fired Jimmy Brumbaugh, the defensive line coach. He actually fired him during the game, and then they made it official Tuesday or Wednesday. Jimmy Brumbaugh played at Keystone Heights High School. People remember that name. Also played at Auburn. But the thing Tennessee can do is they can run the ball well. If they are able to run a little bit on Alabama, they'll shorten the game. And defensively, they've got some pretty good players. Toa, who the linebacker, is one of the best, frankly, in the league. I mean, I think Bama will end up winning the game comfortably, and they won 14 straight over Tennessee. And I still think Pruitt gets it done there. Shane, but it's just a slow rebuild for the Vols.
Yeah, and so have you heard the same thing that I've heard about the Brumbaugh deal? I heard he went in there at halftime and lost control and was going, whether he was going after offensive coaches or whatever, because they've been playing pretty good on defense, especially in that game against Kentucky. Kentucky didn't do anything on offense. Did you hear that as well?
Yeah, I've heard something similar, but I think probably this had been brewing for a while, and it wasn't just the whatever happened in halftime with that. But I mean, Brumbaugh's been all over the league. He's a good defensive line coach. I mean, I'm sure he's a fiery guy, and I can pretty well see where that would happen, and I think he'll land on his feet. But it's just unusual when you see something like that during the middle of the season.
Yeah, no doubt. Another game that I think is very intriguing in the league this week is Auburn at Ole Miss. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, for a bunch of reasons. Frankly, is which Auburn team are we going to see? Are we going to see the Auburn team that struggled? But the Auburn beat writers have pretty well said all week long after the loss of South Carolina that this is a 5-5 football team, but they're very average. Bo Nix is very average. Shane, you were able to pick on it early on and be able to figure out Nix, frankly, before the season began. He's really struggling. He doesn't trust his offensive line. He bails out too quickly. It's almost like he makes up plays in the dirt as it goes along. Now, I think they'll be able to develop him, hopefully, as it goes. But the Chad Morris experiment, frankly, has not worked. He and Seth Williams got into it on the sidelines at some point, and Seth Williams is a guy who needs to get the ball. He should have thrown the ball to Seth Williams in the end zone and let him go up and get it. But at this point, They are hopefully to get things together. The best player they've got is Tank Bigsby. There are times they would do better putting Bigsby in a shotgun and just letting him create something. But you've got Ole Miss that is in run defense are 75th, and pass defense are 72nd, and total defense are 76. And right now, until the Big Ten comes and plays, there are only 77 teams. So Matt Corral is either good or bad. Last week he was bad and really struggled, but they've still got the Moore kid at wide receiver. They've got Ely at running back, so they've got some real good skill position players. Shane, this thing could be easily to 35-33 or something like that before it's over.
Yeah, Brent, I don't know what it is about Bo Nix. Nothing. I don't know the kid. I don't know his dad. I know his dad was a former quarterback there, but I saw him play in the Swamp last year, and even then I was like, he just doesn't have the feel of how to play quarterback. And every game it gets worse. He doesn't even look at anybody. He just takes a snap and starts running around. I don't know if they have anybody else they can put in the game, but
no, they really don't. And that's the problem.
Interesting. Well, they're not going to win many games. I can tell you that right. I don't think they can win 5. I don't think they can win 5 games this year.
Let me expand on that real quick. Joey Gatewood, who was on the team now, is Kentucky, and Malik Willis, who was the backup, is now the starting quarterback at Liberty. So they virtually have no one behind Nix, and it's their own fault that did not work out. And for people thinking, are they going to fire Gus? Well, Gus has a $21.5 million buyout.
Yeah, that's crazy. And, when you see kids like that transfer away, obviously they want to play. I get that. But, they also realize, look, this guy's not even going to give us a chance to compete.
Right.
And it's a shame. Another game that I think is very intriguing, because I think South Carolina is playing some good football right now. They go to Baton Rouge. They got the LSU Tigers. Is Miles Brennan out for sure?
It looks like it. I mean, he's got an abdominal muscle tear. I mean, that just sounds rough, doesn't it, Shane? But the only people they've got behind him are 2 freshmen at this point, T.J. Finley and Max Johnson, who were heralded high school players. But they really, right now, we don't know if they played Dad in the Cowboy movie. And they've got to come in because it looks like, I mean, Brennan may try to gut it out, but he's in rough shape at this point. But this is an interesting matchup between defensive backs and wide receivers. You've got Terrence Marshall for LSU versus J.C. Horn. I'm curious what you think about Horn. And you've also got Derek Stingley of LSU against Shi Smith, who's a really good wide receiver when he doesn't drop the football. Harris has run the ball well for South Carolina. Colin Hill has done fairly well at quarterback. They're also getting a wide receiver transfer, Jalen Brooks, that's going to be able to play. And their defense, they've got 7 takeaways in the last 3 games. They lead the SEC in third down conversions. Look, I agree with you. I think South Carolina is one of the surprise teams so far of the conference. And frankly, Will Muschamp was asked this week, I hope you're sitting down for this. They asked him, I said, Coach, is there any danger of you overlooking the defending national champions?
That's hilarious. I would love to hear Will's response to that. So Brent, another game that could be dicey. Kentucky, pretty emotional win. They played pretty well against Tennessee. Now they have to travel to Missouri. And I just, for whatever reason, every game I watch that Missouri plays at home, I just feel like it puts me to sleep. You know what I mean? Is this a dangerous game for Kentucky?
Yeah, it could very well be, but I tell you what, they're playing much better, particularly on defense. They've had a stretch. They forced 10 turnovers in 16 possessions. And by the way, Mark Stoops now at 500 at Kentucky. They're running the ball for 206 yards a game. They lead the league right now in rushing. They won the past 5 games versus Missouri. Now, Connor Baskulik has done fairly well for them at quarterback. Roundtree is still one of the better running backs in the league, averaging 5 yards a carry. And Damian Hazleton and Jalen Knox have been impressive at this point. Now, they've been off for a bit of time after beating LSU, but this is an important game. By the way, my favorite story of the week, Eddie Gran is the offensive coordinator at Kentucky. He had a mask on, and the first play of the game, his glasses fogged up, and he called the wrong formation. He called the wrong play, and the play went for the negative yards. Mark Stoops said, we're chuckling about it now, but at the time it happened, it really wasn't funny.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Obviously, the Gators have been off, will be off. Got the COVID issue going on. You know, there's no football activities until I want to say October 24th or 25th. You know, they're going to be off about 16 days, Brent, and then have about 4 days to practice to get ready for a game. Some weird times.
No, it is. But, you know, there have been other teams that have been off like that, and they actually played well when they got back. So, I mean, they'll do the Zoom stuff and I think they'll just do some toning during this time. But I'm sure they'll be eager to get back on the practice field Monday. And I'll be real curious, Shane, about what they do, particularly with the defense. Is Jaden Hill going to play more with Marco Wilson struggling? They really need to get Kyrie Campbell back as soon as they can. That would move Zach Carter to defensive end where he may be a little bit more effective. So that's going to be fascinating to see what they do. And Shane, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. I know Arkansas doesn't play, but I give them a lot of credit. If you could give a Coach of the Year right now, it may be Sam Pittman, and the Assistant Coach of the Year right now probably would be Barry Odom with what they've done. I mean, they have guys like walk-ons. Grant Morgan is among the nation leaders in tackles, and Hudson Clark, who's another walk-on, and is going to get a scholarship not now but in January. Picked off 3 Ole Miss passes. Does that give you an indication of what they've had to work with?
Yeah, no, I agree with both of those as Coach of the Year. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. A few more minutes here with Brent. Going to ask you about the ACC. Clemson, clearly the best team in the country. They're just going to walk right through the ACC, in my opinion. But the semis, they changed their quarterback, and they upset the so-called number 5 team in the country, North Carolina. They played well, had some fortunate things happen early to get the big lead, and they held on.
Well, and they did. Jordan Travis, who's a Louisville transfer, which is ironic because they play Louisville this week, really played well. He's become the leader of that team and been impressive. They won 2 out of 3. Now they still had 12 penalties, so they've got to clean that up. But look, they lead the nation. I don't mean the conference. They lead the nation in block kicks. They've got 5 of them, and we knew Mike Norvell when he came there would be a special teams demon, and that has really worked out for them. And the defensive line played better. Marvin Wilson played better. Josh Kando also dominated at times. Louisville nearly beat Notre Dame last week, but they've lost 4 straight. I love Scott Satterfield, and I think he's going to do fine. But that's a really good point. They played much better against the North Carolina team, who, by the way, plays North Carolina State this weekend. And North Carolina was like 5th in the nation. They won't end up 5th in the nation, but that was a big win for FSU.
Yeah, it really was. Just your thoughts real quick. Do you think, clearly Clemson in your mind is the best team out there?
Oh, yeah, good gracious. Yeah, between Clemson and whoever ends up the second place team, and by the way, watch Virginia Tech because of that. They are coming on too. There is a wide chasm between Clemson and everybody else. It's like the Georgia Tech game. They just demoralized Georgia Tech. I don't know if people saw this or not, but Clemson, they put the punter in at quarterback, and he completed 2 passes.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, Brent, any other nuggets you got for us?
Well, let me also say that our friends of the Big Ten get going this weekend,
Yep.
And we're glad that they decided to join the party. And one thing that we need to remember about that conference real quick, I mean, Ohio State's going to win it. They're going to win it in a rout. But I do have a very interesting game with Penn State coming up, not this week, but next week. And by the way, the Michigan situation is going to be interesting. Harbaugh's contract comes open at the end of the year. But the thing I wanted to mention is, remember, they only play 8 games, and they have no off weeks. So saying if they get a situation like Florida does, what in the world are they going to do?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because they have no wiggle room at all. And, everybody's expecting Ohio State to fill one of those spots in the 4-team playoff. But, if they only play 5 games, what happens? So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Absolutely.
Well, Brent, we appreciate you joining us, my man. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend and enjoy watching the games.
You too, Shane. Always enjoy it. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. You can follow him at Brent Beaird on Twitter. Does a tremendous job. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida, and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're going to take our first time out of the program. When we come back, we're going to kick off our Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Hey Gator Nation, this is your former head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Check out our show Inside the Huddle with Shane Matthews and Steve Russell every Tuesday during football season on 8:50 a.m. and 98.1 FM WRUF at 10 o'clock a.m.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice in Gainesville for all your rug cleaning services.
Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance, Pomodoro Cafe,
Big Mills Cheesesteaks,
MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver & Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, PRP Regeneration Specialist, and Dowling Signs.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Now on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup, we're going to be joined by the head football coach of the Buchholz Bobcats, Mark Whittemore. Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Morning to you. How's everything?
It's doing great. All right, Coach. You've had a pretty good year so far. Let's just talk about you did get to play last week because you were supposed to play Fletcher out of the Jacksonville Beach area. They had a COVID issue. Was it tough on your kids not playing Friday night?
Shane, they've kind of yes and no. On one hand, it might be tougher on the coaches, frankly. The kids are resilient. They're getting used to this. This is the second time it happened. They were halfway expecting me to be able to reel in another opponent like we did last week with Steinbrenner, the week before when GHS had to cancel on us. So this is just life as they know it, really, Shane. It's unfortunate and it's helter-skelter, but the kids, as you know, they bounce back. They've had 2 really good weeks of practice, and we're ready to play Fleming Island.
Yeah, you got a big game tomorrow night. But before we get to that, Jack Hevesy, your starting quarterback, Coach Hevesy's son, had an injury early in the year. Now you got your kid playing quarterback. Talk about that dynamics of coaching your kid and how he's progressing.
Well, anytime you're coaching your kid, obviously there's always some interesting dynamics that come with that. As you know, I mean, you've been there coaching Luke, and it's not, I don't know, there's a lot of positives. We think the same. When we don't, I yell at him, and he's got to take it. But being on the same page is important. We've had some, it's unfortunate big time what happened to Jack Hevesy, but he has been unbelievable as a mentor for Creed. There at every practice, on the sidelines, man, he has done a phenomenal job. So that, coupled with the fact that, that we blocked really well up front, Coach DiBernardo has done an unbelievable job of getting those guys ready. We've been able to have some success the last few games.
So looking at Fleming Island, your opponent tomorrow night, a very good team out of Clay County. What do the Bobcats have to do to beat Fleming?
Well, they're a very strong, physical, big 7A football team. So we're going to have to command the trenches on both sides of the ball. We're going to have to keep their hands off of our quarterback as much as possible. And we're going to have to make big plays up and down the field, both defensively and offensively. Very opportunistic. When they give us chances, we've got to capitalize to beat them.
So I don't know if we've talked to you since the playoffs have been chosen. Who do y'all have week one?
We've got Creekside, which you know that Creekside is like 3 miles away from Bartram Trail. They command that little strip of territory there in St. Johns County, and they are a much improved football team. Yeah. They are a really good 7A football team, Creekside is.
Yeah, I was going to say back about 5 to 8 years ago, they weren't very good, but they've gotten much, much better.
Yeah, you better believe it. And Sean McIntyre has done an unbelievable job getting those guys, building that program, really. But you know as well as I do, Shane, that little strip of property and those neighborhoods right there in that neck of St. Johns County, there's some good football players there.
Yeah, there really is. Well, Coach, we appreciate you taking the time. Good luck to the Bobcats. We'll hook up with you in a couple of weeks when it gets closer to playoff time.
Fantastic, and look forward to seeing you, Shane. You do a great job. Keep it up.
I appreciate it. That's Coach Mark Whittemore joining us on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup.
Thank you for joining the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup.
We're now going to be joined by Coach Marcus McDonald for the P.K. Yonge Bluewave. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? I'm good. Thank you.
Coach, so you sit at 2-4 right now. Let's just talk about the big picture. How has your team performed in those 6 games?
Each week we've found something that was broken the week before, and we needed fixing, and we've gotten it addressed. It just seems like there's another thing, and so hopefully this week we've gotten all of our issues addressed, and we can move forward and try to finish the season strong.
Coach, you played. I haven't spoken with you, but you played Florida out of Tallahassee. That quarterback there, I want to say he's highly recruited by a lot of schools. I think Florida has an offer, but I also heard he's a really good basketball player. What kind of football player is he?
Oh, he's really great, man. That kid can absolutely play any sport that he wants to. He's a heck of an athlete. He's got a great build to him. He's very intelligent. You can see it on the field. And he was obviously the best player on the field. I think one of my coaches actually said he may be maybe soft committed to Alabama as a defensive back. So he's just a heck of an athlete all around.
Coach, out of the 6 games you've played, have you been more pleased with your offensive production or defense?
Definitely the defensive production. Our defense has carried us. We were giving up at one point like 14 points a game, and just losing by 2. Our defense has absolutely carried us all year long, and they got a little bit off track last week against Bradford, but we're hoping that this week everything comes together all the way around.
Yeah, tomorrow night you got to play the Fort White Indians. How do they look on tape?
They look okay. They got some kids that are really good football players that they give a lot of effort. They got a lot of energy on their team. They're a bit young, but they do fly around, and what they make up for in experience, they make up for with an effort.
I don't think we've spoken with you either since the playoffs have been announced. What team is matched up with P.K. Yonge week 1?
We've got Pensacola Catholic at home. in the second round. The first round is the last week of the season, so technically that's a bye week for the playoff teams that don't have a play-in game, and then we'll host Pensacola Catholic in the second round.
Okay, so have you started watching any tape on them, or are you doing the old coach focused on your opponent this week?
No, I'm focused on my opponent this week. I have asked about him a little bit, asked a guy that knows a little bit about him, just see, what we're kind of getting into. But as far as looking at film or anything like that, we're focused each week on making ourselves better and putting some time into our opponent.
When you look at the Fort White game tomorrow night, in order for y'all to get a win, what do the Blue Wave need to do well?
We got to perform. We have to execute. Last week, we had a lot of great drives on offense. We had 3 drives that were 10 plays or more, got in the red zone several times, and then we stalled out. We got to find some big playability on the offense. 10-play drives are tough for any team. Something's going to happen once you cross that 10-play mark. Our defense has to get back to, playing solid defense, and our special teams was stellar last week for the first time all year almost. And so, we just, like I said, in each phase, we fix one thing each week, and we got to have all 3 phases come together this week.
Coach, how exhausted are you right now from just it's always exhausting being a high school football coach, but with the stuff you've had to deal with this year, it's probably wearing on you, isn't it?
I'm worn. Yeah, I'm worn.
Well, hang in there, man. It's, I salute all high school coaches. We know what you go through, but this year it's been unbelievable. And I'm just glad the kids are able to play. You guys are able to coach, and we'll hook up with you in a couple of weeks when it gets closer to the playoffs.
Sounds good.
All right, that's Coach Marcus McDonald of P.K. Yonge joining us on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup.
High School Roundup Thursdays brought to you by Baker Sporting Goods.
We're now going to be joined by Coach Jared Allen, the head football coach for the Santa Fe Raiders, in his first year there. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Doing good, man. How about yourself?
Doing well. Well, we haven't had Santa Fe on our program. We wanted to give y'all some love as well. You sit at 2-3 right now. Talk a little bit about how the season's gone in year 1 for you.
Well, we haven't had as much success as we wanted to have. We took over a group that was hungry to win, and we started working hard as soon as the summer started. And unfortunately, the wins haven't came. We haven't gelled as quickly as I thought we would. But we seem to have been turning a corner, and then had this latest snafu come up. We had a big win against Union County where we scored on the last drive with about a minute and a half left. And, we were finally getting over that hump, we felt like, and then just to have this happen.
Yeah, y'all are sitting in some COVID issues right now. So when you look at the seed, you played 5 games. What side of the football have you been the most pleased with, offense or defense?
Defense, for sure, man. Those guys, we've got Coach Randy Cook, who's our defense coordinator. He's been doing a great job with those guys, getting them schemed up and getting them ready for all the, we've played some pretty good teams, We've played, Fort White, who has the Tyler Jefferson, who's a really good quarterback. We've played P.K., who has the small kid that's a really good quarterback. So we've played some really good quarterbacks and really tough offenses. And so far, man, they've stepped up to the challenge every week.
It's interesting. I've heard a lot about your son. He's a quarterback. You coaching. I played for my dad in high school back in Mississippi. I coached my son here in Gainesville. What's that relationship like? I know how it can get when things aren't going well. How's it gone so far this year?
Well, that's kind of been the tough part. He's walking into a new offense. Where I came from, I was on the defensive side of the ball, and it just had to work out this year where I moved over to the offensive side. So he's having to learn a new offense. We're having to learn a new different dynamic with me coaching him. And as you said, man, it can be rough at times, but I think we're starting to get the hang of things. And we talked the other night, and it was funny. We were saying, I was like, while we both butt heads as much as we do. And his response was because we both want to win. And so I think we kind of see, we're starting to see eye to eye more, knowing that that's the dynamic that we're dealt. And, we both want to win. So we're trying to do everything we can to win.
Absolutely. Now, Coach, so who is going to be your first? I know you still got regular season games, but with the crazy system of the playoffs this year, pulling the name out of a hat, who's Santa Fe going to be paired up week 1 with?
We've got Gaston County out of the Tallahassee area.
Okay. Do y'all get to play them at home, or do you have to go up there?
We have to go to Gaston County.
Okay, and so no game tomorrow. You feel like y'all will be able to play next week?
Yeah, I think we're coming down from everything, and the results that I've been hearing so far are positive. So I think that we will be able to play against Eastside next week.
All right, Coach. Well, we'll appreciate you taking time to join us on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. Good luck to the Raiders the rest of the year. We'll get you back on when it gets playoff time.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining Baker's Sporting Goods High School Roundup here on Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning.
Welcome back to this Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration points where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Medicis, Regal Cinemas, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. Now it's time for our Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. And we're going to go kick this thing off a little volleyball style first. We're going to be joined by the head volleyball coach of the Santa Fe Raiders, Eric Marshall. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you.
Absolutely. You have a heck of a team. I don't know a whole lot about volleyball, but I've heard a lot about the Santa Fe Raiders. Just talk a little bit about how the season has gone. You actually play the first round playoff game tonight on this Thursday. Tell us a little bit about the season before we get into your opponent.
Well, obviously, in the beginning, we were just like everybody else trying to figure out if we were going to be able to play. And, I give Florida high school sports a lot of credit. They did everything they could to make this season happen. And we've been able to put together really competitive schedule where we were able to play in 3 very competitive tournaments, schedule a lot of competitive teams. And we do this on purpose because, we want people to push us. We don't mind losing if it makes us better because we have one purpose in mind for doing that. And that's just simply to figure out where our weaknesses are and try and get those weaknesses corrected. So the losses we had this year were just to some incredible teams.
Talk about some of the girls on your team. Do you have any girls that have a chance of playing at the next level?
Yes, I have several that have that chance. Riley Tam is one of our leaders. She sets for us. She does quite a bit. She plays middle some. She plays opposite some on the right side. Jalen Stout is another one who does the same thing. She sets some. She's an opposite. She runs some middle. Faith Marquis is another one that plays 6 rotations for us every single game. Ramaya Thomas is another one that plays 6 rotations. And then we have a freshman, Jocelyn, who is just coming in and starting to get her feet underneath her. She's our tallest player on the team, but she just is inexperienced when it comes to playing a lot of volleyball. But she'll be a freshman that you can look for in the years to come.
Is your team made up of mostly seniors?
No, I only have one senior.
Oh, wow.
Riley and Faith, who I just mentioned, they are juniors, and Ramaya and Jalen are sophomores, and then the freshmen.
So, Coach, when you look at the playoffs, and I get confused, it seems like schools change classifications every year. What classification is Santa Fe in volleyball?
So you're correct. And the way they do it now, it's every 2 years they reevaluate now in volleyball, and they do everything according to Max Preps. Max Preps kind of leads the way as far as how you, and obviously how many people you have, how large your school is. But we were 6A my first year, and we lost the state championship. And then the next year, which was last year, they reevaluated. We dropped to 4A, and we lost the state championship. And then they kept us in. They didn't do anything this year because of the COVID situation. They left everybody where they were. So we're 4A again.
So 4A. So I know you're highly ranked in the state. Who is going to be your opponent tonight in the first round of the playoffs?
So we're playing a team called Bay out of Panama City. I don't know much about them. I'm able to kind of see who they played and make some valuations. But for us, I'm just going to be honest, I can't worry about them. I got to make sure on our side of the net we're doing what we're supposed to do. And I believe if we do that, then I believe that will take care of itself. But yeah, I just, with me not ever playing them because of where they're located, I don't know a whole lot about them.
Yeah, and so I know coaches take it one game at a time and all that kind of stuff, but I know you've had to look at the bracket and see what teams maybe down the road could give Santa Fe problems, or do you feel like, I don't want to say it's going to be smooth sailing, but do you feel like you'll get back to the Final Four?
The team that we look for to give us a problem, we've been able to beat them twice this year, but once in 3 in a tournament, and then we played them at our place and we were able to beat them in 3, but very good games, is Bishop Kenny.
Oh, yeah.
Bishop Kenny would be, in our opinion, who we would play in the regional final if we make it that far. And then I'm not cliche one game at a time. I've already looked. It would be who beat us last year would be the team to beat, which would be Lake Highland Prep.
Gotcha. So tonight the game is at Santa Fe with the COVID restrictions. Y'all pre-selling tickets, or can people, if they want to go watch some good high school volleyball, can they just show up at the gym?
No, there's no ticket sales allowed at the door. Everything's on GoFan. That's where all the tickets are being sold for Florida high school sports. And I believe we're still at 25% capacity, which is, I think, about 260. I believe is what our ticket sales are. I'm not positive of those numbers, but basically, if you go to GoFan and we're there, they're still available. If you go there and we're not, then they've already sold out.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you joining us. Good luck to y'all in your run for a state title. We'll get you back on here the deeper you get into the playoffs. But good luck to the Lady Raiders tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup.
Now we're going to be joined by Newberry head volleyball coach, Hank Rone. Good morning, Hank. How are you?
Good, man. How are y'all doing this morning?
Doing well. All right, Hank. So Newberry has won another district title in girls volleyball. I guess y'all get a bye week, and then who's your first opponent during the playoffs?
We start next Tuesday, October 27th, against Fort Meade, who was a runner-up. They got to travel about 3.5 hours, I guess, to get here, so we're going to play them at 6 p.m. on October 27th.
Okay. So when you look back at the season, were you pleased that, your record? I mean, sometimes coaches think they should have a better record, but, you played some quality opponents being a 1A school. But for the most part, were you pleased with the season so far?
Yeah, I'm really pleased. I knew we had 4 real tough ones that I scheduled with Buchholz, GHS, and Bartram Trail. And then we picked up in the tournament, we picked up Jacksonville Bowls, a couple teams from Georgia that are in the playoffs in Georgia right now, and also Sneed. So we had a pretty fun, tough schedule, and you always play a couple district games in there in 1A. This year they didn't make us play them, but we'd already had some scheduled. And so I would say overall, being 20-3, probably ended up finishing up a little better than I thought we would, to be honest with you.
So, Hank, when you look at the season, I mean, obviously now it's all postseason. It's if you don't win, you go home. Y'all played for the state championship last year. Is that kind of your girls' goal? Is it's play for the state title or bust?
Well, I mean, I think we play it one at a time. I think districts is very important to us. This was our 5th year in a row winning districts. And then this week, you're hearing the people at school, you're hearing your family, they're already planning the trip, and we're not. We know Trenton's going to probably be there for us again in round 2, and they're going to bring everything they have to beat us, and that's really where we're looking at. But being a championship program that we've been the last, 6 years, it's important to check that first box, and that's the district title, and then just get ready from here.
Yeah, as you mentioned, coaches don't like to look ahead, but I'm going to ask you this question: when you're looking at the brackets, who could possibly be the toughest opponent that the Newberry Panthers face to get back to the Final Four?
Well, if things work out on the other side, Bell or Union will probably be playing for the regional championship, and Bell has beat Union 2 or 3 times this year. Union has a couple of players that are really, really good, and they're young. Bell has 3 seniors that are phenomenal and a junior setter. So if Bell plays like they're supposed to play, and they do like they've been doing all year, then it'll be Bell there, and Bell's a huge challenge. They're two outsides, both are over 6 foot tall, and their setter feeds them the ball real well, and they got a libero that when we played them earlier in the year, I mean, we hit some power shots at her. We hit some really good shots, and she dug them up. And so we just have to do a better job of, playing defense and making them move on defense and don't hit it right at them.
Y'all beat Bell earlier in the year, right?
Yeah, and it was tough. I mean, we were up 10 in set one. We were up 13-3, and they came back and went on a 22-7 run to beat us in set one, and then we played good to set two and won 25-18 or 25-22, and then it was 25-18, then 25-22. So Bell was in it every set, every step of the way. Their two outsides total 52 kills against us. One had 30 and one had 22. So you're never going to stop those two, but we got to do a better job of trying to touch it and block it and slow it down a little bit. And if we can do that, then, we might be a little bit more successful with that.
Who did Newberry lose to in the state title game last year?
We lost to Sneeds. Sneeds has won it 7 years in a row.
They're from Tallahassee, right?
Right outside of Tallahassee.
Okay,
yeah.
So basically, for 1A volleyball, it's going to be somewhere up here in the northern part of the state of Florida, right?
Yeah, you have the only teams we have down south is like Crescent City, which is really Palatka or east of that, and then you got Fort Meade and Wildwood. So really 1A is real rural, so it's really more from our area north, and that's kind of the dividing line is up around Tallahassee and the Panhandle. But Sneeze shouldn't have a problem coming out of there again, and they'll be in the state championship again. I just don't see them losing in their brackets up there.
All right, so the Newberry Panthers pretty much have a week off to practice, and then we'll tip it off or what they call it in volleyball.
I always say tip off too, but I guess we'll play our matches, and go from there. But you're right. I don't actually know. I need to find out what that is.
Yeah,
football guy.
So it's October the 27th, right?
October 22nd, Fort Meade in Newberry, and I'm not sure what happens if Crescent City upsets Trenton. But if Trenton wins, we'll get Trenton in Newberry, and then we'll host Bell or Union or Hilliard or Mayo out of that district. But it's pretty much going to be Bell or Union coming to us.
All right. Well, good luck to the Lady Panthers. We'll get you on as the playoffs progress. And good luck to the Panthers, and we appreciate you joining us, Coach.
All right. Thanks, Shane.
All right. That's Coach Hank Rone from Newberry Volleyball.
This is Shane Matthews. Thank you for listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. You can also check me out on Inside the Huddle with Steve Russell and the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Tune in every Tuesday during football season on WRUF 98.1 FM, 8:50 a.m. at 10 o'clock in the morning, or find us on your favorite podcast platform.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Area Rug Masters, your number one choice in Gainesville for all your rug cleaning services.
Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parrish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Radware, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Thursday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. This Day in Sports is brought to you by Area Rug Masters, Gainesville's most trusted area rug cleaners. With free pickup and delivery, Area Rug Masters is the convenient way to keep the focal point of your room looking brand new. Call Area Rug Masters 352-448-5980. 9-9. This day in sports, in 1976, Rick Barry began the longest NBA free throw streak of 60. That happened in 1976. That's brought to you by Area Rug Masters. I want to thank Brent Beaird for joining us, talking a little college football, a lot of crazy stuff going on these days, and then obviously all the high school coaches for the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. It's playoff time for volleyball. A couple more weeks, we'll have high school football playoffs, but we appreciate them taking their time during their busy schedules to join the program. I love talking high school sports. It's very important to me, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. But today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Make sure, though, you tune in tomorrow on our Friday edition. JC and I will have our Peachland Dental, JC and the QB picks, but also I have AJ Przinski, World Series champion, longtime Major League Baseball catcher, will join us, give us his thoughts on the Rays and the Dodgers. So, like I said, this show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Take care, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.